Hello, everyone.
Hey guys, welcome into the podcast. On today's podcast, we are going to be talking all about the role of the head of household.
But of course, before we get to that, if you're enjoying this content, would you hit the like button so that we know which videos you're enjoying? And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because every time you do, it makes me smile.
And if you want to support what we're doing, help us continue to do it, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. A link to our Patreon is down below.
All right, so talking about the head of household today.
Yes, we are. We thought it would be good to go through and just talk about what do the roles between a head of household and a taken in hand, what do those look like? What does it mean to be a head of household? And next week we'll talk about what does it mean to be a taken in hand, because I think that sometimes there might be a misconception that the role of a head of household is primarily the role of disciplinarian. And that's not necessarily a picture that we want to paint, because being a head of household is so much more than just being a disciplinarian.
That's what I was going to say, is I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there of what a head of household does and what he is and is supposed to be. And they're, all of us are really good at just kind of slapping a label on something and saying that's the way it is. So I think this is great. We're talking about this.
I think that the reason that misconception happens, though, is because, at least on our podcast and other domestic discipline sources that I've seen out there, it can be that there is a focus on the discipline side of what the head of household is doing. How to discipline, when to discipline, the consistency in which you discipline, and all of those things are really important. I think that the reason there's a focus on that, especially on our podcast, I can speak to our motivation, is that is what people are most curious about when researching domestic discipline. That's kind of the more nuanced aspect of domestic discipline versus other more traditional relationship styles. And so that's why we tend to talk about that a lot, because that's what people want to know. That's what they're curious about. That's what they're trying to figure out. But I feel like by doing that, we have kind of created this imbalance of information that might make it look like that's all a head of household does.
He's only going around trying to find reasons to discipline up.
Well, not even just finding reasons, because that the time and place, right? You want to make sure that anytime you discipline, that it's necessary and earned, and it's building your relationship up. You don't want to be nitpicky and find reasons just to hand out spankings, because that would be really detrimental to the growth and development of the taken in hand. But it's more of like that is basically the head of household is just kind of up on the hill looking down and just looking for when the taken in hand messes up so he can swoop in and hand out that discipline. And that is just not the picture of what a head of household is, that at least not what we want to paint a head of household to be, because there is so much more to it.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think, where we really want to go with this is to say, because of that, what's the new picture that we want to paint for you for the head of household? And actually not even a new picture necessarily, but what is the broader picture that we want you to see here about what the head of household is supposed to do, and what you head of households right now may be saying, well, okay, I know that's one aspect, but what else should it look like?
Right, because you really want to realize that, especially in domestic discipline, especially the domestic discipline that we represent and speak to is relationship based. So you don't want to lose your relationship when you start using domestic discipline. This really is something that can coexist with your relationship and really intertwine with your relationship to support the growth and development of who you are, so that when you are moving through the discipline side, it is structured in a way that builds the relationship aspect as well.
And so head of households, I think, the first thing that we want for you to see as a part of this is that the head of household is somebody who cares for the taken in hand. And what I mean by that is that he is concerned about building that relationship with her. He's not just that disciplinarian, but the times where he needs to be soft with her, he is. And the times that he knows it's time to have conversations or to hold one another close, or he understands that being the disciplinarian is only part of him building the relationship with her. And so he is doing his very, very best to be as well-rounded and all-encompassing to make sure that he's meeting all of the needs that that he needs to meet for her. And those are the times where, yeah, you need to be gentle. And as I just was talking about, holding her close and having conversations and really building that relationship, putting the time and effort into building the relationships in addition to all the things that we all talk about.
Everything you do as a head of household needs to be driven by your love and care for your taken in hand. It can't be like your main focus really does need to be the fact that you love her, that you care for her, and that you want to take care of her. And every decision you make, whether it is creating balance between when to come in with discipline, when to be stern, when to, create those firm boundaries versus when to support and connect and have conversation. Whenever you are striking that balance, whatever decision you are making, you want to make sure that primarily your motivation behind your decision is your love, care, and attention towards her.
Absolutely. And the rest of those things can get lost if you're not careful. And so this is a big one, head of households, because you can almost, it's that old saying of that you don't see the forest despite the trees. You need to be really, really careful that as you are trying to hold your taken in hand accountable for the rules and different things, that you don't lose sight of what is really important, and that is your relationship with her and making sure that you're cultivating all areas of the relationship, not just the area of discipline. And if you're doing that, then you'll see that you are striking a good balance. And what I've seen in my experience is that she is realizing that, he's not just being this tyrant. He's not just looking, like Aria was just saying, looking up on top of the hill and just waiting for me to mess up. He really is doing this from a very caring point of view, and he cares about me as a person, because he's not just making sure that I'm following the rules and then enforcing those and giving me lectures and all those things. He's asking me about my day. He is really in tune to the things that I need in order to be successful in every area of the relationship.
And building connection.
That's right.
Because that is a really important aspect of that relationship side, is making sure that even through discipline, even through those harsher moments, but on the other side, through everything else that you do, that you are building connection. And I feel like this kind of goes straight into our next point, which is that a head of household does need to offer oversight, not in a way that lords over her, that she doesn't feel like she has any connection to her head of household, but he does need to keep that bigger picture in mind. He does need to look at everything that's going on and really offer complete oversight of her behavior, of their relationship, of the household. That's one of the major responsibilities of a head of household.
Yes, and you're bringing up a good point here, because one of the things that sometimes can be in a contention in a relationship is the fact that the taken in hand is saying, well, you're not seeing this, and he is, but he's seeing the broader picture and of how that all fits together. And that's really, really important, because those are the times where you can prevent something really bad from happening in your relationship if you are really taking that bird's eye view, if you will, and making sure that you also communicate that well, but also say, hey, this may be something that you don't see right now, why I've decided to follow through in this area, whether it's a correction or a punishment or whatever it is that you're currently talking about, because I am seeing what could possibly happen from the bird's eye view rather than this little place that we're in right now.
And it's all part of creating the vision for the relationship as well. In order to have vision for your relationship, you really need to kind of have that broader picture, to know where things are going, to see potential outcomes, to see, to be able to set goals. Where do you want to end up? And kind of find the path to get there. You have to have that broader picture, and you have to offer that oversight and really make decisions that keep all of those things in mind, not looking just at individual circumstances or situations, not getting, again, too caught up in the trees that you don't see the forest, right? You do want to keep that bigger picture in mind so that you can set goals, work towards those goals, make decisions that are best for the entire situation and everyone involved, and really create that vision ultimately for your relationship.
And that's a really good point, because the biggest thing that you have to do, head of households, is just what Aria just said. Vision is key, especially for relationships. And this is what your taken in hand is really counting on you with. Vision casting, we know, is hard, because again, you have to have the goals in mind. You have to be able to see, okay, I think this is where we need to go, and you need to be able to have a plan of action. Those are all things that you're taking in hand has given over to you. She doesn't want to do those things. She doesn't want to have that kind of pressure, right? And so you need to remember, as the head of household, that is his job, is to cast those things, not just so that you know in your relationship where you're going and where you want to get, but especially so that you're taking that pressure off of her. Again, you're helping her realize, wow, he really does care, because he doesn't want me to have to deal with certain frustrations and certain pressures that I really don't want to deal with. And so that's really your job, is to try to, I kind of think of it as when you've seen in movies where they're going through a rainforest, or they're going through real tall grass, and there's somebody in front with a machete or something like that, and they're cutting down to make a path for everybody behind them. That's what you're doing for your taking in hand. You're going forth, and you're making sure that you're cutting that path, you're showing that way, so that she doesn't have to be dealing with the long grass and all the trees and different things. You are cutting that path as you're going, and you're making sure that she is then following that path.
And I think Coda kind of caveated into one of our final points here.
It was by accident.
By accident, but very seamlessly and flawlessly, actually. But he really started to talk about walking through that with your taken in hand, clearing the path, showing the way, and guiding her directly through the decisions that you want to make. You want to have that overall picture, but you also want to walk alongside her and offer direct guidance and leadership. I think that too many times we have seen couples that this is one of the mistakes that they make, where the head of household has this vision of their leadership being the oversight. And so they kind of create boundaries, they create the fence, if you will, and then they just kind of watch their taken in hand, and just to make sure that they don't step outside their boundaries, right? But they don't offer that direct, tangible leadership and guidance through the day-to-day, through the decisions. And the reason why that's a problem, or a potential problem, it's not always, but potentially it could be a problem, and more often than not it is because that leaves the taken in hand feeling very confused, potentially feeling like they don't know where they're going or what they should be doing, and it can cause her to be insecure. And it can cause her to potentially test boundaries, because she's not really sure where they are. And she's looking for that guidance. And if the only time you're stepping in to give guidance is when she actually starts crossing boundaries, that's going to lead to frustration in your relationship. It's going to lead to you not understanding why she is always testing the boundaries, why she can't just live in this fence that you created for her, that she can't just live within these boundaries that are pretty broad. Actually, the broader the boundaries can potentially lead to more problems, because then it's an even wider net that you cast, that you leave her with not knowing which way is up, right? And so to walk through the day-to-day with her, to give her tangible guidance, to make sure that the rules are very set in motion, that she knows exactly what is expected, and there is follow-through, there's follow-up, and there is consequences if she goes outside of that, so that she can have that secure leadership.
When we are wandering around and there is no fence, or even sometimes there's a fence and you just said that the fence is way too wide, it's way too broad, we think there's going to be freedom in that, and there's just not. That's where the frustration sets in. There's all kinds of things that can cause negativity in your relationship when you don't have those very, very clear, strict paths, that there's only one way to walk. There's only one way to go. And I thought, wow, that is a great way to think about it in your relationship. That's really what you need to do for your taken in hand, is make it to where the walls are so high and they're so narrow, there's only one path that she can walk, but it's the right path for her.
And you want to make sure that you're setting her up for success, and by walking the path with her, by showing her exactly which way you want her to go, and I'm not talking about, like, you don't have to be physically with her all day, every day.
Right.
But setting those very clear boundaries, those very clear expectations that she can follow day to day. It's more than just saying, we have an expectation that you're respectful to me. It's more about saying, this is what respect looks like to me, and this is what I need you to do in order for me to feel respected by you. And by setting her up to have very clear vision of what you expect from her, have very clear boundaries of what you expect from her, and again, following through, following up, making sure that you're checking in daily, making sure that if she is even slightly off the mark, that you bring her back with correction, with the discipline, with guidance, with conversation. You bring her back to what the expectation is. That creates a sense of security, and that makes it to where she knows that she can follow your leadership because she sees you tangibly creating the expectations and invested in the process.
You know, that whole thing that you were just talking about is so important, and sometimes that we can forget as head of households to really walk with your taken in hand, that this is something that you are doing with them, not and for them, not this thing of, again, I'm just going to kind of watch from above. And so really what it is that you need to be that leader that she desperately wants and needs in the relationship, because the way that your relationship is going to work is someone has to lead, someone has to follow. But you don't lead from, again, being above that person and looking down and barking out orders. It's someone that is going on ahead, charting the path, and then when they start to stray from the path, saying, no, I care too much about you to let you go that direction. You need to come back this direction because I see where we're going here. Mm-hmm.
It's about saying, come follow me.
Yeah.
And you said something really good about, this is something you do with your taken in hand and for your taken in hand. It's not something you're doing to her.
Right.
You really do need to create this mindset that this is something that you are doing together with you leading the process so that she can follow your leadership. Because like you were saying, someone's going to lead. And if you are not taking that position of leadership, if you are not forging that path, saying, come follow me, this is the way, if you're not doing that, your taken in hand is going to be left to her own devices, and she is going to try to fill that role because it's not really a role that you can leave unfilled. You don't turn the car on and then hop out of the driver's seat and expect everyone to just be okay with that. Someone has to drive. Someone has to chart the path forward. And if you are sitting up in a high position, kind of overseeing everything, you're taken in hand, they're not going to have that aspect of walking through the process with you. They're not going to see that you're charting the path for them. And you're not there to say, this is the way, come follow me. You're not there to offer that quick correction and guidance when they start to veer off the path. And so they're going to feel like they have to kind of take charge, take control. That's not what you want from your taken in hand. You really want that soft submission. You really want them to be in a position to follow your leadership because they are so secure in knowing that you know where you're going and that you know what you expect from them, so that they can fulfill that. But if they don't feel that from your leadership, they're going to be tempted to try to take control so that life doesn't just stagnate, right? I mean, we're always moving forward in one way or another, and really creating this role of head of household and encompassing what it means. It's all about creating a path forward that is productive to the growth and goals of your relationship. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you want to hear our post show, we have a members-only post show. It's open up to YouTube members as well as Patreon members. So if you are interested in hearing us continue this conversation, links on how to join membership is down below. Otherwise, we will talk to you guys next time.
See you later.